story. What did one volcano say to the other volcano? I lava you. This is taking our relationship for granted. Maybe we could work things out if I were a little bolder. I think we've really hit rock bottom. Let's talk about the old times. Get a little sentimental.
Crying out loud, that's enough!
Rock punch!
I don't really like 2D platformers. I think the reasons why are just a result of when I grew up. I'm not going to talk about it long because there's like 100 videos that have, but around the time I was first getting into games, and specifically Nintendo, they released just a lot of garbage to pad out their release schedule when everyone was trying to figure out what the hell this thing was supposed to do. And I think to this day that has kind of ruined my perception of the genre as a whole, and probably a couple others. To me, these are just games made to fill up a schedule and make a quick buck. Copy-paste jobs with the same gameplay, same world, same framing device. Why would I bother playing these? I played for like 20 minutes with the same loop as these games and assumed every level was going to play like these and just moved on. And I think that's what really pushed me towards more story-driven games. I played Mother 3 on a crusty old emulator as a young lad, and I think this game in particular completely set in stone my tastes. It's the first time I genuinely connected with a world and characters in a video game. Like I actually cared about the characters on the screen instead of them just being a means to an end. I was so much more invested in this than anything else I had the ability to play. Oh god, is this why I keep playing sad games? And if this didn't solidify it, you know what I played that completely broke my brain? Oh fuck yeah. This is my general taste in video games. There's obviously a couple arcadey style games that I really love in spite of all of this, but for the most part, I love games with huge scopes, unique premises, fun characters, stories that make me feel something or think about things I might not have. I love games as an art form. So where do you fit into all of this? Well, if there's one franchise in the aforementioned arcadey genre I still like, it's Sonic. I don't know why, and I never will, but unfortunately, I am a Sonic fan. And I had heard of Freedom Planet, but never actually played it. I still haven't actually played the first one, I'll get around to that one day, I promise. But I saw this game about a month after it released on Steam, and I just bought it. I mean, why not? If it's bad, I can just refund it, right? Huh. So all I knew about this going in is that it's going for a 2D Sonic game experience. The first game actually started out as a Sonic fan game, so I was pretty confident I knew what I was getting into. I'll just select the basic character, probably a Sonic clone, let's give it a try. Holy shit, I have a parry. I also got this twirling move, pretty cool, and I bet this is a spin dash. Oh no, that's... Oh, I can just do that. I can just do it, oh... Lilac controls literally nothing like Sonic. She has some basic punch and kick combos, a spin move for damage and some extra horizontal distance, and a parry. Every game should have a parry, frankly, but this kind of game in particular really benefits from having it. Enemies are more proactive about attacking you rather than just standing as obstacles, so guarding is necessary for combat. It also basically nullifies the Sonic issue of going so fast you just run into things. It can still happen, but now you have a way to quickly avoid damage if you react in time. Where in these games you would probably just have to memorize the obstacle was there. And once you get to the boss fights, this thing is essential to master. I'll get to those later because, oh, these are their own game. Her Dragon Boost is by far her most important move, and you would probably assume this is just a spin dash, and you could use it as such, but you can also angle it, do it in the air, and cancel out of it. You can always rely on it for a burst of speed or try to do something a little more interesting like skipping over some platforming challenges and even some puzzles. The structure of Sonic levels is a lot less linear than your average platformer, and this game goes all in on that idea with multiple paths and secrets everywhere. And having such a strong option to explore the world makes doing so a lot more fun. That's not to say doing so isn't challenging because, oh, it still is. You're limited to going straight ahead or at these 45-degree angles, and you have to time canceling out of it to really take advantage of it. Or else you kind of just do this. Once you do get a handle on it, her movement is some of the most rewarding in any 2D platformer I've played. This one move makes it clear that you're free to explore and that the level design is more of a suggestion to what you should be doing, and it always feels good to just completely bypass an obstacle or just find something new in an old level. The first level looks like pretty standard platformer fare, but it's got these tall stalks of vines that you can grab onto and swing around, and how fast you go depends on your initial speed, so you can boost and swing up and go and the next one is these pipes that shoot you around super fast, you go through the floor. The next one's got these spin things, you have to time it and
fling into space.
Then you go to this level and you think, okay, this is just the Sonic Casino Zone. Then you get on this ball and okay, the point is, every level has some distinct elements and gimmicks. Sometimes multiple elements per level, never seen again, and oh, they are all good. There's like one annoying one I can think of. I don't know why the Mega Man blocks trap you in place, but everything else just rocks. I think these all work so well because they're all just easy to understand at a glance and allow for big rewarding bursts of speed. If you play the vines right, you can swing yourself up into areas you couldn't reach otherwise. You can time the baseball swing and fly across huge chunks of the level. You can get trapped at a fucking cube. I don't like this one. Even the ones that mostly act as puzzle elements are still interesting and allow for a lot of skill expression. There's this level where you have to push these metal balls into slots to complete a circuit, but sometimes you don't have the ball, or if you're fast enough you can bypass it entirely and use yourself to complete the circuit, and you gotta race the electrical charge to the next socket and let it pass. In any other game this would just be annoying and slow, but they made it fulfill the role of a puzzle element while still being fun and fast and allowing for you to go off the beaten path. This is kind of a softball, but I do love the level theming as well. There's a museum, an old weapons forge, a big lightning rod tower, a junkyard covered in snow. I tend to check out instantly when the level themings of these games are Grass World, Desert World, Grass World, but Freedom Planet doesn't do this. Every individual level is completely unique from the last, and all the pieces fit together to feel like a real lived-in place. I love every level here. I've played them all multiple times, and a lot of the replayability comes down to the game having 4 different characters that all feel vastly different to control. By far my favorite character is Carol. Her main movement tool is this jump disc she can throw and fly towards, and she can also do this Mega Man wall climb, and in combination these things make her not quite as fast as Lilac, but significantly more mobile. If you want to just completely break the level design, this is your girl. And she gets a motorcycle. I don't actually like using the motorcycle, it's very slippery and it clings to walls very easy, but you gotta get bonus points for the motorcycle. Mila is pretty different from the others. She can fly, put up a reflective shield and shoot cubes, but when she parries, the cube turns into a big cube and she gets this big laser, and if you flick the laser in a certain direction you can propel yourself and start to build up speed. I suspect she has the highest speed potential in the game, but it is very hard to use right. It is worth it once you get the hang of it. She feels incredible to fly around with. She also has this kit combo, which I have literally no idea when you are supposed to use. She has a gun. The last character is Nira, and I don't get Nira. She doesn't really have a good movement option I could find outside of this air move where she just kind of flies above everything, which is lame. She kicks ass in boss fights, but that's a relatively small portion of the game and I just don't find her fun in the levels. She's the only character I haven't finished the game with, and I probably won't unless someone can provide a revelation on how to use her. You do go through the same levels and bosses with everyone, and I do think I would have preferred levels tailored specifically for the characters. Some of the boss fights in particular I found much harder on certain characters, with Mila especially. Like, what is she supposed to do here? And with this structure, it can also feel like the other characters in the story are just kind of standing around the whole time, waiting for you to do everything. I think this is the only real issue I have with the game, and if there's a Freedom Planet 3 coming out, I would like to see it structured more like a Sonic Adventure 2. Structure does sometimes benefit the story, and I actually do really like the story of this game. There's some small variations in the cutscenes based on who you play as, and despite it being the same overarching story, there's a lot of smaller stuff you don't see by only playing as one character. I don't really want to explain much of the story as a whole, but it does take some surprisingly big swings I did not see coming from this kind of game. Themes of war, government conspiracy, lesbian fish. I can't think of any other 2D platformer that goes this hard on the story and is not afraid to sit your ass down for some long cutscenes, and I honestly prefer it like this. I play Xenoblade for fun. The tone always remains generally lighthearted, which I think is handled surprisingly well. Mostly just because every character is an absolute delight. Once again, Carol is my favorite.
All entrance fees are non-refundable.
Enter now!
But the main villain, Murga, is a close second. She is delightfully menacing and actually sympathetic, which I feel like a lot of villains attempt to do, but this one actually lands for me. She's basically out on a revenge path, but she's also shown to be at least somewhat reasonable and doesn't overstep beyond what she needs to do for her goal. She's obviously evil, but everything she does is very purposeful. I would recommend playing with Lilac first if you are interested in the story. She obviously has the most at stake in the main plotline, with Murga serving as a foil specifically for her, and things just generally make more sense with her at the front. Her route also takes itself a bit more seriously. The other characters' cutscenes can be well...
I've heard about fossil fuels, but this is ridiculous.
They're kinda awesome. Yeah, the others are a bit less serious, but never in a way that's too distracting. There is a clear separation of when the story is exploring more serious themes and when the characters can go silly mode. They'll never shove in a Marvel quip during a serious moment.
I just moved
Murga!
with my freaking mind!
The writing is far from perfect. I love some cringe, but
That guy was like, roar, and I was all like, bam! And he was like, oh god.
it does test me. And a lot of pretty crucial backstory is locked behind easily missable side content. It really feels like they couldn't find a sensible place to put this in the main game and just locked it all in the first place they thought of. I really wish they did find a way to put it in the main game because this should not be optional. What does work well as optional content is that each character has a particular villain in their route that acts as a foil to them, kinda like Lilac is to Murga. You still see the other villains in every route, but it doesn't get fully expanded upon until you play as that character. The interactions between them are worth playing the other routes for alone. Mila and Serpentine in particular is fantastic. Mila deserves the world. I think every character's story is really good in its own way, and you could realistically play as any of them and have a great experience. I would still recommend starting with Lilac because, again, the other characters' cutscenes can be a... well...
Move it!
Thanks, Ascal. I was almost a meal sandwich.
They're way better, I'm sorry. Speaking of all these villains though, it is finally time to talk about the boss fights. And oh my god, these are insane. So imagine a 2D Sonic boss, right? Mechanically, this is just an extension of your already simple platforming abilities. You jump at Eggman, and then he goes away, and you don't get hit. But what if the mechanics were not simple? Uh-oh. So I do really like these boss fights, mostly, but I think this is where it might be make or break for some people because they are hard. This is considered one of the easiest bosses, and she still kicked my ass the first time. She is super evasive and relentless during her attacking phase, just constantly flying across the screen. And she has this move I'm pretty sure homes onto you no matter what that you need to parry. You can hit her whenever, but the only good opening you get is when she stops to shoot the gun, and then she goes right back to zooming around. Everything you have to do here is still an extension of your platforming abilities. For Lilac, aiming your dragon boost and cancelling it at just the right time and catch them in massive damage. For Mila, you might need to stop and reflect these bullets. And you better learn to parry sooner rather than later because oh god, she does not let up. It's just a lot more complex, and I do think it's ultimately for the better, but I wonder if they went a bit too far with some of these. They are pretty significantly harder than the levels, and I don't know if I've ever been walled by a boss in a platformer before, but here we are. There are a couple safety nets built in to prevent you from getting too stuck. You have 2 lives for every level, and if you lose one, you have the option of how to spend that life. Either going back to the checkpoint with a full health bar, or getting right back up with 1 health point. It's great for when you just need to get one more hit in, and it's also just raw as fuck, and you know I got right back up every chance I got. I did not hear no bell. I didn't mention them before because they don't really matter for the levels themselves, but you can equip different items and mix different kind of potions together to make the levels easier. These aren't consumable. Once you buy them, you just allocate how much you want and you get to use it. There is the downside that you get a lower score rank, which, oh no. You can select an easier difficulty at the start, but as far as I can tell, you can't change it. So if you're in over your head, it's always good to change items around or check out the shops for some new ones. Now, if you're interested, there are items that can make the game harder and get you a higher score rank if you're good at video games. I'm not, so I didn't use them. It's a hard game, but there's more than enough resources to make sure anyone can beat it while still rewarding skilled players. Even with my stupidly high playtime, there's a couple bosses I still feel like I need to use items, and there's no shame in that, no matter what that guy on Reddit with the Millennia profile picture was telling you. As I'm scrambling to write a conclusion, you're probably wondering, Muchow, YouTube sensation and most famous white guy who talks about video games alive. Why did you start this video with a long intro about how the only good video game ever made is Mother 3? And it's because I almost never gave Freedom Planet a chance. I only did so because I just so happened to see it on Steam at the right time and place. I wasn't expecting much of anything from it, much less to love it as much as I did. I thought at best it would be a one and done I could just turn off my brain for. But it was so much more than that. I love the scope of the world, the absolute joys of characters, and the surprisingly ambitious story. When I sit down and write these stupid videos, I want to go beyond just game is good. I want to talk about what it means to me and look at it like I would any other piece of art. And Freedom Planet isn't really the kind of game I had in mind to talk about, but why couldn't it be? Why can't this kind of game be just as artful as Mother 3? Why can't incredibly designed mechanics that make me rethink how I view other games be just as impactful as a game like Chicory? I still don't think I overall like this genre, but I respect it a hell of a lot more. And having elements that do cater to my tastes help me appreciate the strengths that this genre has a lot more. I don't know if most platformer fans would like this as much as I do, especially with how talky it can get. But if you take anything away from this, just try something new from time to time. Trying things on a whim with no expectations is how I found some of my favorite games ever. Take some risks on things that look interesting. You won't find winners all the time, but when you do, it's something special. I'm Sonic. I am Sonic the freaking Hedgehog. And I'm awesome, yeah, I rock. And I'm really freaking cool as heck. Da doo dee doo be doo da. I fucking kill people.